think that we're a museum talking about history. We want to present our objects in the future or in a way that people can come here and actually smell the future. See, the Tech Museum's visit should encourage you to become an inventor. You really need to be inspired by what's going on in the world. So this is the best mission we have developed for this institution here in the middle of Silicon Valley. And in that regard, Ray Kurzweil is the most prominent person to have here to support our mission. And since he talks about future, he would not be in a Time magazine of yesterday. I have here in my hands a Time magazine which will come out on the 21st of February. So it's a couple days out there. And it talks about singularity. Singularity, the moment when technological change becomes so rapid and profound, it represents a rupture in the fabric of human history. That's what this issue talks about. Ray Kurzweil, they gave him a 9-page article on here. And the headline is Time 2045, the year man becomes immortal. So I'm going to be in the 80s then. Maybe I can make it, you know? Immortality, you know, is this what we want? Singularity? Ray Kurzweil is going to talk about it. We are proud to host a worldwide tour of the critically acclaimed Transcendent Man, which comes to us straight from New York and heads next to Los Angeles, to Washington, D.C., Massachusetts, Canada, and London. The film chronicles Ray's life and explores his most provocative predictions. A little bit about our special guests here. The director's buck hit Barry Ptolemy at the age of 12. You got started early. As he worked alongside Steven Spielberg on the set of E.T., he has since gone on to direct and produced dozens of commercials and films, recently directing the intro video We Are the World 25 for Haiti that aired during the Vancouver 2010 Winter Olympics opening ceremonies. His interest in the science led him to read Ray Kurzweil's The Singularity is Near, upon which his first feature, the film we're seeing tonight, is based. He will talk to you in a few moments. Ray has been called the restless genius by the Wall Street Journal and the ultimate thinking machine by Forbes magazine. Maybe we need you on our board. Ray Kurzweil is the inventor of the first CCD flatbed scanner and many other technologies first. I would not know how to organize my life without a scanner and without optical recognition. Here's the man who invented it. He was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame and has received the National Medal of Technology, the Lemelson MIT Prize, that's when we met first in 2002, and the world's largest for innovation, and 19 honorary doctorates and awards from 3 U.S. presidents. And we're very happy to claim that Ray Kurzweil was the first speaker here for the Tech Museum when the institution was opened in 1998. Tonight, they're both here to talk about the film, share some of Ray's most daring contentions, and answer some of our questions. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Ray Kurzweil and Barry Ptolemy. Just for understanding how this evening will be organized, Barry will talk to us and Ray introduces his film to us, and then we're actually going to see something here. And after that, there's a session for questions. So I'm collecting still cards. I have some already in my hand. So if you have questions, we'll collect those cards from you, and then I'll moderate the session after the presentation. Thank you very much, and Barry.
We're going to let Ray speak, I think, and then I'll just follow up with a quick remark.
Well, thanks for that warm introduction. It's great to be here. everybody comfortable? The seats really lean back, so don't fall asleep. I do recognize a number of you, and given that this is Northern California, a lot of you are familiar with some of my ideas, so I'm not going to give my usual presentation. I don't want to be redundant with what I've said before, and definitely don't want to watch the movie and see me saying something that I just said half an hour earlier. So I'll actually try to talk about some things that have happened since the movie. And I mean, the movie was just finished, but we started making it, we actually met 4 years ago. And Barry followed me around for a couple of years. You do get used to that. And it was finished, well, there was a version of it a couple of years ago. And a lot has actually happened in a couple of years. Things happen very quickly now. I mean, just a few years ago, people didn't use social networks, and now it's transforming the world. I actually wrote about that in the 1980s. I didn't call it social networks, but I called it decentralized electronic communication. But as the movie points out, I said it would sweep away the Soviet Union, which it did. And we did see a great rise of democracies during the 1990s with the rise of the web. And it really undermines the key tenet of authoritarianism or totalitarianism, which is central control of information. I believe it's liberating. The tools of creativity have been democratized too. You don't have to be a big organization to engineer, create disruptive change in the world. A couple of kids at Harvard, one in particular, wanted to create a website where people could meet each other and people could find out information about their dates. And they were very excited when they had 100 people use it. And now 500 or 600 million people use it. And it's fomented 2 revolutions just in the last few weeks. And it's worth, I think at last count, about $80 billion. A few years before that, a couple of kids at Stanford, just as kind of a dorm challenge, said, hey, we could reverse engineer the links on the internet, and then we could use that to be a search engine. And they did that on $1,000 laptops, and that's now worth $150 billion. And both of those technologies have changed the world. A key issue, which I will repeat from the movie because it bears repeating, is the concept of exponential growth. And I'll say a few words about that because that's, I would say, the key difference between myself and my critics. People say, well, Kurzweil underestimates the complexity of the brain. That's a key criticism. And I've actually been thinking about that for 50 years. That's not an exaggeration. I'm writing a book on it now, How the Mind Works and How to Build One. And I don't think I underestimate the complexity. I think my critics underestimate the power of future technology because they're thinking linearly, not exponentially. And the reason they do that is because that's hardwired in our brains, to think in a linear manner. When we saw something coming at us through the corner of our eye 1,000 years ago, we made a linear prediction about where that animal would be and what to do about it, and that worked pretty well. And that became hardwired in our brains. And even sophisticated scientists think linearly about the future. They look at the current pace of change, they assume that that's going to continue. They don't assume things won't change. Change is a constant. That's the axiom. It's actually not a constant. Change is accelerating. I gave a speech at the University of Basel recently on their 550th anniversary, and it was founded shortly after Gutenberg, actually 20 years after Gutenberg made his invention, fairly nearby in the 15th century. I said, wow, you must have had some of Gutenberg's books when you opened your doors. And they said, yes, we got them very quickly, only a century later. And that's how technology progressed in those days. It took actually 400 years for the printing press to get a mass audience. The telephone took only 50 years. The cell phone took only 7 years to reach a quarter of the American and European population. Social networks, wikis, and blogs took 3 years. So things are getting faster and faster. But what's underlying this is the fact that information technology, not all technology, and not everything, but specifically information technology progresses exponentially, not linearly. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it goes 2, 4, 8, 16. Well, what difference does that make? Well, I'll tell you a parable about the inventor of chess and his patron, the Emperor of China, who really loved this game, and he offered the inventor a reward. And he said, you can have anything you want in the kingdom. So he said, all right, thank you, Your Highness, I'll have 1 grain of rice on the first square. And he said, 1 grain of rice? I've offered you the riches of the kingdom and you want 1 grain of rice? And he said, all right, then 2 grains of rice on the second square. Okay, so that's 3 grains of rice. Do you want anything else? And, okay, and 4 grains of rice on the third square and 8 grains of rice on the next, and so on. So the emperor immediately granted this seemingly humble request. There's 2 versions of the rest of the story. One version has the emperor going bankrupt, because by the 64th square, that equals 18 million trillion grains of rice, and I actually looked up the density of rice paddies and determined that if you planted rice paddies on every square inch of the earth, oceans included, you wouldn't come close to meeting that. The other version of the story has the emperor losing his head. I'm not sure which version is more credible, and that's actually a debate we have right now with the singularity. If we're the inventor, will we have all the riches of the kingdom, or will we lose our head, so to speak? That issue is examined in the movie. But as the movie points out, 30 steps exponentially gets you to 1 billion, not 30. And it makes a very profound difference. But as I mentioned, not everything is information technology. Health and medicine, we've made a lot of progress. Life expectancy was 20,000 years ago, it's 37 in 1800. It's pushing 80 today. But that was linear progress, because it was not an information technology. It was basically kind of a grab bag of things we noticed and found accidentally. We organized that knowledge, and it's become fairly extensive, and we use computers to keep track of it, but it's basically not an information technology, and it's progressed in a linear manner. There's a very profound change that's going on right now that ultimately will transform every industry, which is that health and medicine and its related field of biology has become an information technology. We have the software of life. We have the means now of changing it. We can design these interventions on computers. We can affect every level of the information processing of biology. Biology is inherently an information process, and we're now understanding it and gaining the tools to re-engineer it in the proper information terms that it truly represents. And it's outdated software. We update all the other software in our lives, yet we're walking around in our bodies with out-of-date software, and that's not a metaphor. That's literally the case. But we have technologies now like RNA interference that can turn off genes, and new forms of gene therapy that can add genes. And it's a complex discussion, but it is now an information technology. And some of these things are starting to gain fruit, like stem cell therapies, where we can regrow all of our organs and tissues. We can turn off bad stem cells, like cancer stem cells, which is really the source of metastases. And all of these technologies are in an early stage. But the important thing to recognize is now that it's an information technology, it's going to progress not linearly, but exponentially. So these technologies will be 1,000 times more powerful in 10 years, 1,000,000 times more powerful in 20 years. So, Peter, I think you've got a good shot at making it to 2045. We talk about a bridge to a bridge to a bridge. Bridge 1 is what you can do right now. There's actually a lot more than you can do than people realize to slow down aging, even right now. We will get to a point where we can reprogram biology. That's the biotechnology revolution in about 15, 20 years.